Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. Because this is Airwindows ClearCoat. Now, you might wonder, well, why would you do that? And the reason is because this is my sort of near-field reverb that I've been working on. And it's showing up in some of the mixes I'm doing at the moment. Those are coming along. I don't want to be in too big of a rush over them because I have to chill and get over the somewhat turbulent launch of Console MD. But I was using ClearCoat on mixes that I did recently, and I have done well, let's firstly show you what this even is. I have it this is the width that these normally are. It can be resized. So what we've got here, we'll start with just a drum track because I've got that lying around. And what this is for is putting a ambience reverb on there, that being a bright sort of tile room-like thing. When I say tile room, what do I mean? It can be a very small room indeed, because what ClearCoat is a classic 4x4 householder reverb algorithm with very little else going on. It doesn't have any of the darkening techniques that I'm using for the bigger reverbs. But this control we've got here, select, is not simply scaling up a algorithm. It is choosing between, let's see, 16 to 0. That means it's 17 different rooms. Each one of these is a distinct setting. Each one of these is a distinct room, because ClearCoat is all the little small rooms that you could want. And we can hear it sort of at full wet here. Again, here's our dry. The idea that you can use with this is, supposing you have like a vocal or something like that, and the person is like, well, it doesn't sound as good as it does when I'm singing in my bathroom. Well, that would be a tiny tiled room, and you can throw that on as a tone coloring. It's going to be one of the reverbs that I use, but you don't have to pick just the smallest possible one. They can get larger. Now you'll notice these all have their own sounds. All of my reverbs have their own sounds because they all have distinct and individual householder matrices. This just has 17 different ones rather than just being a distinct one from everything else. And you can really hear how it gets affected by the new reverbs coming in. And these are getting larger and larger each step of the way. Now, the little small ones might work for, say, vocal, drum room, whatever, just adding a sort of gloss onto things. But as we start getting larger and larger, we get interesting sort of drum room sounds out of it as well. It's always a bright reverb. It's always a 4x4, which is a sort of plain kind of reverb. It's a fairly simple approach here. Some of them have a bit more of a flutter echo kind of thing, because again, this is not just rescaling. Each of these are a distinct algorithm. they have different physical properties. Every single one of these is its own room. So you might end up finding something that you like better for a particular sound. As they get larger and larger. And of course, the way you would normally use this, because I was just showing you all of the full wet sounds, is you would take this and say, pick a particular one, set this on an aux, and run signals to this, maybe kind of subtly. And that still has a lot of dry to it. But you get to add some of that coloration. Switch it out again. And it's drier than maybe you would want. Put it back in and there you go. Or you can take a larger one and it'll just sort of add an atmosphere around things. It will add space in such a way that you don't have to have a lot of it. What you're doing is just adding the coloration of this wildness to the dry sound. One of the things to know about this type of thing, and it will apply, for instance, to these little small ones. If you're working with the dry sound, one of the things to know about doing this type of adding coloration to things is you might want to dial it up until you can hear the new color happening, and then start working on other things and think to yourself, is this tone color distracting from everything else that's happening to the point where it's taking too much attention? And then you take it back, or you run less to it in the aux. There's the sound. And you'd be setting up a mix. This is one of the things I'm trying to get across with the mixing, because part of the whole, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. Why you might do things is also important. And although it's fun to be like, oh wow, hey, this is an extreme sound, there could well be times when you're doing a mix and you're trying to get a result rather than just, oh, let's show the sounds of my plugins. You don't necessarily want to be doing that. I mean, it's great making plugins and stuff. I really enjoy that. But this is something I've been discovering also working with the new version of Console. And as I go forward, there are going to be more new versions of Console. This is not a fixed point. I said Console MD is Console done. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop. What it means is it's time to do all of the studios, not just the ones with MCI desks in them. And it's time to get other behaviors, like the MCI is notable for a particular coloration on the highs, on the lows, that particular mid-range boost that it has, the MCI only boosts, doesn't cut. Very different from things like your Trident A range, which is a 4-band, and it's just not going to be as sharp and focused as the sort of laser-like MCI boost that you can get. mine goes a little beyond that to be ultimately laser-like, but point being, these are not things to just exaggerate and make striking noises with. The idea is you're shooting for something, and in doing mixing, you can bring in something like ClearCoat. ClearCoat has an additional technical detail I'd like to bring to your attention. The whole thing with console MC coming out and then being rapidly changed to console MD was that I had a very new invention, which was the Subtight plugin that was based off of Creature. And I was using it to try to cut extreme lows in a particular way. What I didn't fully get was that it was doing a kind of tilt EQ thing. It was doing a push in the extreme highs that it slipped by me. I hadn't noticed that was happening. As a result, the original console MC was extremely bright, and I decided to do console MD rather than try to overhaul console MC. But there was one other thing. The Subtight algorithm had been designed as a sort of fixed algorithm. I wasn't scaling it according to sample rate, and I think that's one of the things that kind of bit me, where it wouldn't really have been as obvious that something was going wrong if I was doing my work at like 44.1K. So what you've got in ClearCoat is also the Subtight algorithm, because it's designed to be a bright ambience. It's in the same place that you would have it if you were putting this kind of bright ambience inside console MC, because the Subtight brightening effect tilt EQ thing is happening right before the summing bass. It's happening after the reverb. And there's a change that I am looking for some feedback on. Namely, it now scales according to sample rate, even though my initial take on it was that it didn't perform properly. It didn't handle that properly. I'm thinking the way that I'm using it, it's probably better that I do that. I didn't realize it was having as strong of an effect initially. So trying ClearCoat out, with a bit of luck, it's going to have a very similar tone. I've tested it. I think it's working at lower sample rates or at higher sample rates. And if this works, I'm interested in going back and updating Subtight and console MC to adapt to shifts in sample rate on the Subtight parts of the algorithm. It shouldn't be, it's a certain amount of trouble doing it, granted, but I think it might be worth it. And I think for like serious use, honestly, I'm going with console MD. That leaves console MC as a sort of bright, crazy, wild, intense thing that was the first form of this stuff coming out. And though I've moved past it, I'm interested in maybe making it be relevant for people who choose to use that. And so try out ClearCoat and let me know whether it's working properly at different sample rates. I'm typically going to be running at 96K. I think that is a good basic sample rate to use pretty much for just human beings on into the future. I don't think you're going to need to grow to be able to do 192 or something, even if that's possible. Even if I do design this stuff to run 192, I'm going to be doing 96 because I think that is a good balance. But the point is, ClearCoat should have its brightening thing going on in such a way that it will give largely the same effect at each rate. And if that works, I can look into revising the Subtight plugin and revising console MC in place. Hopefully, because like if you're doing your work at 1x sample rate, this will not change anything for you. If you're doing things like trying to do 2x or 4x oversampling, this might straighten things out so that it'll act more the same, even though if you run oversampling on stuff, it's never really going to be quite the same. But some of this stuff will work out fairly well if you do a basic amount of that, and that is the sound that you're trying to get. With a bit of luck, this is going to make it more cooperative in such circumstances. And with that, I will get back to work, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.